City Council public hearing will please come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Joseph Kamara?
Here.
Stephen Kamara?
Here.
Kilby? Long?
Yep.
Pelletier?
Here.
Viveras?
Here.
And Vice President Lullaby LeBeau.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I'm going to say that Councilor Kilby is not feeling well. He will not be joining us this evening. Also, I received a couple of calls that the police department was very busy tonight, so I released the officer that's usually here back out onto the street. If we need him, we can always call, but I'm sure that we won't. Have a motion to open the hearings?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to open the hearings made by Councilor Long, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All in favor?
Aye.
So voted. Item 1, these are curb removals. Carver Street LLC, P.O. Box 4075, Fall River, Mass., for the removal of curbing as follows. 6 Carver Street. The petitioner owns an apartment complex with an existing 16-foot, 6-inch opening on Carver Street to provide off-street parking to tenants and would like to increase available off-street parking by opening a second 16-foot driveway. The proposed work improves access to the property for off-street parking for tenants. Are there any proponents to this proposal? Any proponents? Are there any opponents? Seeing none. Item 2, 119 Slade Street, Fall River, Mass., for the removal of curbing as follows. Petitioner has an existing 19-foot driveway and would like to increase available off-street parking. The proposed work improves access to the property and does not cause a significant adverse effect to on-street parking in the area. Are there any proponents to this? Any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none. Item 3, 1068 Slade Street, Fall River, Mass. For the removal of curbing as follows. The petitioner has an existing 130-foot opening to a commercial storefront property on Slade Street, which is primarily used for pull-in parking, and would like to increase available off-street parking and provide loading zone access to the rear of the building by opening a 16-foot driveway on the Montauk Street side. The proposed work improves access to the property for off-street parking and offloading of deliveries. Are there any proponents to this proposal? Any proponents? Any opponents? Counselor in seat 7?
Yeah, I go by there once in a while, and you ask for permission to take the curb out, and it's already dug up, it's already out, they need the cement work, and the curb is out. I mean, how do we allow these things? Is that the proper way to do it?
Madam Clerk?
No, Counselor, they should have their permit before they begin any work.
And what's the repercussions? I mean, we're gonna, you know, I mean, it's, anybody can trip over that, you know. They're coming in tonight, it's not done, it's dug out. No cement has been put in, but it's a hazard for the people as well. And, it's just not the right thing to do. I don't want people to think out there they can do something with no repercussions. I don't know if we wanna bring him in to find out what the story is, or we can let it go. I mean, it's up to us to decide what to do. Maybe send it to a committee. With that, I yield.
We could send it to a committee when it comes up in full council, if you'd like, Counselor.
Yeah, Committee on Highways?
Public Works and Transportation.
All right,
Do you yield, Counselor?
yes, I do.
Item 4, 2174 South Main Street, for the removal of curbing as follows. Petitioner has an existing 10-foot opening and is requesting a 16-foot opening on Otis Street to provide pull-in off-street parking to serve a restaurant. The proposed work improves access to the property and may relieve the anticipated parking congestion when the business opens. Per engineer, if approved by Traffic Commission and City Council, applicant shall be required to submit a site plan review application to the Planning Department. Stormwater mitigation for any increase in impervious surface on the property shall be required. Otis Street will be reconstructed in the spring as part of the city's Chapter 90 Street Improvement Project, and the owner is advised not to remove curbing or construct a driveway or parking lot prior to the city's contractor initiating work on Otis Street. Owner is advised to coordinate with engineering upon approval for a schedule of work. Are there any proponents to this proposal? Any proponents? Any opponents? Seeing none?
Council Vice President?
Yes, Counselor.
Well, there's a situation where they tell them, don't do the work. So I don't know what happened with the other job, but they're telling these guys, don't do the work. So, who advised them was, JR, is that them guys that's supposed to check that out?
According to the engineer, there is work scheduled through Chapter 90 funds for that location, and that's why they have the stipulation that they're not to proceed with any work on the roadway until, at least for 6 months.
Yeah. Okay, I yield, thank you.
Yield. Thank you. Item 5, ECO ATM LLC, 10121 Barnes Canyon Road, San Diego, for permission to operate and maintain a secondhand article store located at 4171 North Main Street, inside Shaw's 1411, purchasing used electronics, no sales. Are there any proponents to this proposal? Any proponents? Any opponents? Seeing none. A motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion made by Counselor Long,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. All in favor?
Aye.
So voted. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. All in favor?
Aye.
So voted. City Council Committee on Finance will now come to order. Madam Clerk?
Councilors Kadim,
Here.
Joseph Kamara,
Here.
Stephen Kamara,
Here.
Kilby, Long,
Here.
Pelletier,
Yeah,
Viveras,
Here.
and Vice President Lullaby LaBeau.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We have a number of people that have signed up for citizens' input. Will you all be coming down together? I have Gina Hutchins, 84 Commonwealth Avenue. Grace McDonald, 73 Commonwealth Avenue. Alan Sylvia, do not give your address, state rep. And Dennis Duquette, 33 Commonwealth Avenue. The subject for everyone is Commonwealth Avenue. You each have 3 minutes, however you would like to divide that up. If you would give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Grace McDonald Nay. I live at 73 Commonwealth Avenue, and I'm here tonight to speak to the council members regarding the results of our last meeting and some letters that I were able to print off the WSAR site. Basically, when we were here at the last meeting, we discussed the zoning of the building, and somehow we were misunderstood or misinterpreted because the following letter that came out regarding the building from Allison Bouchard, city clerk, stated that the only part of the building that was looked at by zoning was the addition, the new addition of the kitchen. And we clearly stated the last time we were here that the manufacturing is going on in the middle of the building. So I find it hard to believe that somebody went in and looked at the zoning of the building, but didn't look at the whole building. There is manufacturing going on there. So these letters state that it's okay because it's still a retail kitchen. The manufacturing piece of the building was not addressed. And they're not zoned for manufacturing. And they're not zoned for manufacturing.
Ms. Hutchins, is that from the city clerk or is that from the building inspector?
It's Grace McDonald Nay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and this is from the city clerk and Glenn Hathaway, these two letters.
Thank you.
They're dated, Glenn Hathaway's dated November 13th, and the city clerk's is dated November 25th, 2019.
Next.
Go ahead, Jim.
Gina Hutchins, 84 Commonwealth Ave. Just speaking because there is an issue here
Could you just bring the mic closer so we can?
that there is an issue that needs to be resolved one way or another. The traffic is ridiculous. We can't get in and out of our streets. We can't open our windows during the summertime to let the fresh air in because it smells like skunk. Safety issues, my children won't play outside. The guns being pulled in the parking lot. It's a safety issue, and my children don't want to go outside. We bought a house on a cul-de-sac for that reason, and we can't enjoy it.
Dennis Duquette, 33 Commonwealth Ave. I'm just looking for some clarification per Gina's statements. I know what was said at the last meeting because I was here. I know what some of you gentlemen had said because I was here. I know what I read in the newspaper because I know how to read. Not that I believe everything I read in the newspaper, but, you know, there were some things said at this meeting that were relatively clear to me in relation to zoning and people being compliant and the possible repercussions of companies not being compliant. Unless I misread something, the Herald News stated that they were not compliant. And the repercussions that we heard in this meeting, the last meeting that I was here, have not happened. How are we allowing businesses to operate in this city if they're not going to follow standard zoning laws? I mean, other than all the issues that we're currently having in that neighborhood, How do we allow it to happen? Who's accountable for it?
And how
do
is
we-
it allowed in a residential area?
Do we not hold people accountable for any of these actions? I think it's pretty simple. I just don't get it. As a resident of Fall River, you know, who's held accountable? I'm not saying you guys have that answer for me, but who's held accountable? That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. State Representative Alan Sylvia. The residents of Commonwealth Avenue asked me to be here this evening on their behalf. Obviously, you all know the seriousness and the public safety crisis that exists. If anyone has gone by there, almost any time that you go by there, but certain times are very serious and difficult. What is the answer? I know that Madam President mentioned to me, and we're well aware that there'll be a public safety subcommittee meeting next month. That's weeks away. I've been meeting with, and I had meetings with Mayor-elect Coogan, along with an administrator and the attorney representing Hope Health and Heal and the Globe Corners cannabis facility in an attempt to move forward in a more expedient manner the retail operation of the facility down north. Mayor-elect Coogan has heard from the Cannabis Commission today. I spoke with him earlier at a transition meeting. So we know that will alleviate some of the traffic problem when there's one or two more retailers. However, the problem that exists now is one that is an emergency, in my opinion. Exigent circumstances are required in some way. There have been accidents. I was there the other night. There was a motor vehicle accident. Ambulance had to be called. The busiest day where there were so many problems, and these residents can tell you, was the day after Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. And that is going to happen again the eve before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and New Year's, where residents come from, where customers come from all parts of Northeast to purchase cannabis. And these folks cannot get out of their street safely. They can't enter their street safely. And this is not only about the residents who reside on Commonwealth Avenue, but also the entire community, because people are having a hard time leaving the city, traveling on Canning Boulevard, or entering the city. So, one of the immediate things that could be done, although it's not being done to the extent that it should be, is having 2 police officers directing traffic. That's only been done sporadically. Yesterday, there was 1 police officer sitting in a car. That doesn't get it. There needs to be 2 police officers, and they should be required to at least do that for the community, to have 2 police officers directing traffic so that it lessens the stress and pain on operators who are trying to not only leave Commonwealth Avenue, get on Commonwealth Avenue, but not be involved in a serious motor vehicle accident. There's always an answer to a problem. Obviously, they probably shouldn't have been there in that location, but that's easy to be said. We say that every Monday morning after football. There are things that can be done now, though. I just think waiting, we know the problems that are going to exist. There were several accidents over the past week. There'll probably be several more. But something could be done to encourage the operator of Northeast Alternatives to require 2 police officers to direct traffic. It's the only way to resolve the issue, at least temporarily, without having a serious crisis happening.
Thank you, Rep. So as, I just want to remind the council, this was a resolution put in by myself to go to the Committee on Public Safety. At that meeting, we decided we were going to send it to Finance because there was a variety of issues there. In the meantime, we asked the building inspector in the city to check on the zoning. That is the letter that we received from Glenn Hathaway telling us that all was as it should be there. If there is a difference of opinion, that will definitely be heard at the meeting. I have had a couple of text messages with Ms. Hutchins. I explained to her that while it is in finance, that if we were to put it on tonight's agenda, we have 4 counselors that are leaving us, 4 new counselors coming on. So anything that would happen in a finance committee would have to we'd have to start over again in 2 weeks and bring the new counselors up to speed, which I think would cause more of a delay, or if anything, if you're asking for additional police presence, that's certainly something we can do. I've also reached out. Some counselors are touring that facility this week. I've gone through the neighborhood, seen the cones and various things, taking pictures of the homes and what they've had to do for their driveway. I know other counselors that are staying on have done that as well. We can certainly reach out to PD and ask for some extra manpower there if that's what the chief sees fit. However, this is still in our finance committee I've spoken to the acting mayor. If he remains council president, to be put on the first meeting in January with the new council on the Committee on Finance, so that all of the different department heads involved can be at the table. Councilor in seat 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just in terms of the question with regards to the accountability, so the zoning enforcement officer, who's Mr. Hathaway, the building inspector, has he determined that, you mentioned about a letter coming out, so everything is in compliant? Is that,
The letter states that they only looked at the new addition, and the addition is compliant. We were talking about the entire building.
so, Madam President, the letter you were speaking to, in terms of the zoning, so was he stating that everything is in compliant in terms as the zoning, I just don't have a zoning map in front of me, so.
I'm assuming that we're talking about the same letter. It was in our email from Mr. Hathaway. I'd have to pull it up.
I missed that myself, so I have it.
Do you have a point of clarification, Councilor?
I do, if you don't mind. I guess the confusion was Mr. Hathaway went to go look at the addition that was recently put on the building, and it's a kitchen area, so he went to look at that part of the building. Everything is in compliance as far as the kitchen goes. Their claim is that there's manufacturing going on in another part of this building, and manufacturing is not in compliance. It's not industrial with that use there. So it's commercial, but it's not industrial manufacturing use. And that's the part that I guess Mr. Hathaway missed, if that is what's going on there, according to the residents.
So we can certainly send Mr. Hathaway a follow-up
So we need to let
and ask him to,
go look at the entire building, see whether or not they are manufacturing a product there. If they are, then it puts them out of compliance, according to the zoning that's there now.
all right. Madam Clerk, would you?
Is that correct?
To be clear, the center of the building, to be very clear, the entire center of the building is manufacturing. They're growing. All the apparatus is on the top of the building in the middle.
So the claim is there's retail on one end, manufacturing in the middle, and the kitchen on the other end that was recently put on in addition.
We can send a follow-up to
That'd be
Mr.
the
Hathaway.
worst thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we could, and if they're in violation, obviously a cease and desist order would have to be issued to the company, just tell them that they're in violation, and obviously stating what they're in violation of. So if we can just do that before the next meeting, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Madam Clerk? Thank you.
I yield.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 6?
Yeah, we had quite a discussion last time we were here, and I thought I was the one that brought it up about the manufacturing not being in compliance. I did follow up. Also, I've spoken with the mayor-elect, and we were trying to work on to make sure that some of these other facilities were going to be on the agenda for their licensing and their next meeting, which is next week. So we're confident that that's going to happen. So that may relieve some of the traffic issues. See how that goes. As far as the letter, I saw that letter, and I understand what he was doing. He was just saying that what he went to look at was in compliance, but he didn't look at the rest of it. Well, I kept going through all of this, okay? What happens, and what we're now doing is we're looking at the tenant there, and trying to say that they're not in compliance. When they filed their paperwork, the paperwork that they received that went to the Cannabis Commission and was signed by the former mayor said clearly that they were in compliance with all zoning regulations of the Commonwealth, of the city of Fall River. And I was like, how can that be? And I asked a bunch of questions. They said, well, that's the non-compliance piece. I said, no, I think we got this wrong. The non-compliance, so we're not against them selling marijuana, but the rest of it they have to comply with. So I think there was a lack of communication, and I don't think this is on the tenant's fault. I think it's more on the city's fault. The city failed in what they were supposed to do. And now you've got people who invested a ton of money, sitting there saying, every time we asked a question, we asked all the questions, and they told us everything's good and everything's right, and they moved forward on the information that they received from the city. Now, if the city's giving them bad information, how is that their failure? And this is what I'm finding out. So I'm like, okay, so how do we fix it? I don't know how to fix that. I think what we need to do, and again, I'm gonna be one of those councils that's leaving, but I think into the new year, and I was speaking with Councilor Pelletier moving in, I think there has to be a resolution that goes forward, that first of all, because there was a question about the definition of manufacturing, which just blew my mind, but that's a whole nother story.
Or agricultural.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, they gotta look at it, and we need to say, you know, is it, if I grow something at a store and I sell it strictly retail, is that manufacturing? Except manufacturing is manufacturing to me, but when you get in government speak, you know how that is, now you get the lawyers, it's, hey, we need to define it, because it's not gonna be defined as Webster's dictionary, it's gonna be defined by the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But to me, whether it's for retail, whether it's for wholesale, you're doing it the same way. You're using the same equipment, you're using all the same stuff that you have to do with. So if it's manufacturing on a wholesale side, then it's gotta be manufacturing on a retail side. And again, moving forward, so this won't happen again, I think there has to be a resolution that defines that, to say that if they're gonna do it, they have to comply with all our zoning laws. And that means manufacturing is any type of growth, any type of agriculture, any type of anything that's gonna happen inside those buildings is manufacturing. I don't know what else to tell you. What are you gonna call it? Farming? I mean, I don't know. And so that's the stuff, and I was getting just as frustrated as everybody else, because every person you talk to had, well, we got another excuse. And, you know, as a council, I get frustrated because I listen to what's going on. You have a problem, and we're saying, oh, let the tenant, let the person fix it, but they didn't break it. The city broke it, is the way I look at it. But I think there is ways to fix it. I think they're willing to step up and try to fix it. We did talk about the trailers in the back. I said, I've never seen any facilities in Fall River be allowed to have those types of trailers that are hooked up with wires. They've got heat, they've got light, they've got air conditioning, everything into two. And they say right on the side, temporary trailers. They're just temporary trailers. Well, what was it, temporarily permanent, or is it permanently temporary? I don't know what it is, but those should not be there. They should not be there. So I've had that conversation. So it's a constant battle. I don't know how to, I don't think you're ever gonna get back to where you were, but you gotta get back to some place that becomes tolerant, that you can live there. Because right now, I took a ride up into the cul-de-sac and drove around and just kind of listened and all that type of stuff. And you know, I get it. I understand what you're feeling. And you know, from my side, as I was trying to figure out, and I talked to the building inspector, and I talked to all the powers that be, and we went through this conversation. So the conversation is continuing. It's not going to be fixed tomorrow. I think I said that last time. I think we can get some relief. I'm hoping that these licenses get approved for the other facilities, that can take some of the traffic burden, at least the traffic burden. If we can get rid of that would be a big help. But the other pieces have to be addressed, and I think they will be going forward. So it's not that we don't want to do something. We understand it. The problem is how do you get it done? Because I don't, if somebody told me, if I came down and said, hey, I wanna build a house, you know, where do you want me to build it? And they say, well, build it right there, you can do it 10 feet from there, and 5 feet from here, and 3 feet from there. And I build the house, and then later on, they tell me, oh, no, it should have been 2 feet, you're gonna have to move the house. I'm like, whoa, you told me to put it there. Why should I be punished for that? And that's basically what's happened here. They said they can do it. They've got a piece of paper that says, you're in compliance with all the city of Fall River's zoning and everything else. But that, not by my estimations they aren't, but they do have a piece of paper that says that. And I don't know how they got that or how that went down, but it's there. So, you know, it's just another one of those things. It's like, so what do you do now? It's like, okay, you know, it's not, anything's not a forgery, it's a legitimate piece of paper. So, that's where we're at. I mean, and they went to the Cannabis Commission, said, we're in compliance with everything, we wanna move forward. Cannabis Commission said, okay. So here you go, everybody was acting on what they believed was good information, but I think the information was faulty, and it should not have been allowed, but, that's where we're at, so.
So are they not in violation of the law then?
You tell me. I'm saying if I have a piece of paper that says I'm in compliance, then I'm in compliance
As retail or
on
manufacturing?
everything. They are in compliance with their operation, they're in compliance with all zoning, and in their application, it was saying manufacturing, everything. It said everything right in it. I read the whole thing. So I don't know what it is. You got something. I'm kind of baffled by it, just like you. And I think moving forward, we have to be a little bit more clearer as to what that is. So it's tricky, but you know, I didn't give up on it because I truly believe they were non-compliant, and I still believe they're non-compliant. But that's by my opinion. My opinion is just my opinion, I guess. So that's where I'm at. I yield.
You yield, Counselor. Counselor in seat 7, Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you. You know, in the process of building that building, were you people notified that that building was going up? See, you know,
The building was already there.
they put an addition on the building. Big building.
When they originally built the building?
Yeah.
No, we were not told. We were told when we bought our homes, and we have the maps, that was supposed to be a cul-de-sac.
Yep.
And somehow, I guess it was commercial zoned. We weren't aware of that. We were told it was gonna be a cul-de-sac, and it's gonna have duplexes in it. We have little maps that were given to us when we all bought our homes, and then that's not what happened.
Well, you know, most of the time, they go in front of the planning board, you got a plan, and they're gonna put the building up, and they notify the people in the neighborhood, and that's it.
They didn't notify.
Never notified. Well, I think that's an injustice right there.
The other thing I was told when I called the city planning office, I was told by the city planning, and his name is Bill Roth, I believe.
Yep.
I spoke with Bill Roth, and I asked him why none of us were notified that the cannabis distributor was coming in. And he said because it was retail, coming into a retail zoned building, that we didn't need to be notified, because it was retail going to retail, when that's not what happened.
He's right saying that, though.
Well,
Retail to retail, that was the whole
But they're doing more
non-opposition.
than retail.
That's what you weren't. It is more than retail.
I believe that you people should have been notified. I think the building went up way too fast, and I don't think they have the right approval from Fall River as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they cleared the air from Boston, but who gave them permission to put the building up? Well, is it the building department? I think it should have went in front of the planning board. I think you people should have been notified, and we know what the problem up there is, the traffic, of course. And Mr. Sylvia hits it right, that you got the other places that should open up to alleviate the problems up there. I know a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the police department, they were up there, and traffic was all backed up. I mean, it's crazy. So you guys are going through all the problems that you shouldn't go through because somebody didn't do their job, because you weren't notified. And I think it's bad enough to say that the city here now should put them on notice. Put them on notice. You guys are doing all the work. That a cease and desist should be given out to them until they come up with whatever they done to build that building and to run it the way they're running it. I think it's wrong, and I think that's what they should do until they straighten this out with the city in Boston as well. That building went up, I couldn't believe it, just going up, and nobody said too much, so you people found out what was going on up there. I think it's awful, and I think if I had anything to do it in the council, and to try to do the right thing, I think cease and desist is the way to go, and you tell us out. Whatever you've done to bring that building up to what you're doing, let us know. I think you're wrong. I think the people are right. I think the city's wrong. And whatever Boston said, it's okay. No, I think they're wrong. I think it's up to us and our lawyers here in the city to look at it. And I think it's time for you guys to get some relief. And it's time for the city to say, hey, something's wrong here. Let's do something about it. Let's give a cease and desist, and let's see what's going to happen. Meanwhile, you people will have some relief, and then we'll find out what the bottom line is. Who's right and who's wrong? I think the companies went way overboard, way overboard. They couldn't put that manufacturing or baking or cooking in any mill in Fall River that wouldn't bother you. Already you had bad enough problem with the traffic and the marijuana. Then they put a kitchen there. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So, we should send a letter to the Corporation Council to look at it, and we should send a letter to the building inspector and ask him what went on and why can't we stop these people until we know who's right and who's wrong. You need relief, we should do it now. So can we get a letter to?
We already have a letter going to the building inspector,
Okay,
Counselor.
Right, about the Corporation Council.
We could do that as well,
Yeah,
Madam
all
Clerk.
right. And it's a shame, that's all. I mean, it's the holidays, it's no good. I understand they're doing in, I don't know if you've seen it, in New Bedford. They're building a mill, and they got all the components there, and they're gonna have a cooker or whatever they wanna do and all this stuff. It's ridiculous. Marijuana is totally ridiculous. Everything that's going on. I don't believe there's that many people that smoke marijuana. You gotta be kidding me. Maybe I should try a couple of puffs before I come to the meeting. Maybe I'll feel better about the situation. To know what.
Puffs, I think they got edibles for you.
I'm chubby enough, but no, it's wrong. Let's see if we can try to straighten this out and give you some relief. And I'll talk to the bill inspector too, and see where he stands with this. And if he can do anything, he should do. Cease and desist. That's my vote. I yield.
You yield, Counselor. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
Yeah, I just want to point out that, they're either in compliance or they're not. The zoning is manufacturing or it's not. They have a letter, I don't know if that was a special permit that was issued to them from I don't know where, I haven't seen it, but the lawyers will figure it out. Send it to Corporation Council and they'll figure it out and they'll decide and see what's right and what's not right. But let's say they're not in compliance with manufacturing, then they're just gonna stop the manufacturing and take that space and make it more retail. You're gonna get more people going to that location because there are gonna be more different products available. They don't have to manufacture it on that facility.
It may get rid of the smell.
Well, no, I'm not saying, so get rid of the smell, which is good, but I'm just saying it's gonna probably create more traffic because they'll have more stuff there, so regardless, they're not gonna go away. What we need to do is find out a way that we can ease the burden and make it safer and less congested traffic. And I agree with my colleagues, once more places open up, it'll ease the burden on that location. Right now, it's the only game in town, everyone's going there from all over. That'll change as soon as other places open up. There's a place in Somerset, I know people tell me they drive to Somerset, they're in and out in 5 minutes, and then they come back to Fall River, and people probably still in line for 25 minutes just waiting in line, forget about driving back and forth to that location. So as people find out about different areas, it'll ease the burden. But it's a tricky situation. That's why you have to have Corporation Counsel look at it. And he'll tell you whether they're in compliance or not. Very simple. It's very plain. He'll check and see whether they have a special permit or they have a legit license. I don't know, but they'll figure it out. Best thing to do is have those meetings as soon as possible to give these people some relief. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. 2 points of information. I believe what Counselor Long is speaking of is their original application and the letter that they received, correct?
Correct.
So the application is in the city clerk's office, along with any documentation that went along with it before, during, or after the application process, as well as anyone else that received a letter to open.
And each
Those
one of
are-
the departments has signed off on it saying they were in compliance.
Correct. And to your other point, at 10 a.m. tomorrow, the agenda will be announced for the CCC. Hopefully, Hope, Heal, and Health will be on it. I've been working with Rep. Viola on this. She has been in constant communication with them. As to my knowledge, there is no outstanding issues. If they are on the agenda, we are hopeful that everything will pass smoothly, and that would be within just a couple of days. Counselor in seat 1.
Thank you. I was just going to echo my comments that my colleague in C2 had mentioned. At the end of the day, this is really not within the jurisdiction of the City Council. So the administration, in my mind, I know Acting Mayor Cliff Ponte is probably watching the meeting. I think the best approach to do is call up the building inspector tomorrow along with legal, have the conversations and figure out what's going on so we don't have to wait until next month. At the end of the day, he has the authority and say over the police department, the building department, which controls zoning and enforcement on that situation, the planner as well. In terms of the addition that was put on, they're required to have a building permit. At that point, the building inspector will look at all the zoning and setbacks to make sure that they're in compliance. If they are not in compliance, then they have to go to the zoning board of appeals to get a special permit for that. So I would assume that everything was on the up and up in terms of that and the setback, which is probably why you weren't notified. If there is a zoning board of appeals, the abutters, direct abutters would be notified. So I would assume that you folks would have been notified, but I think these conversations really can be had on the 6th floor and really kind of squared away probably within a couple of days, and hopefully just reaching out to the company, trying to figure out what's going on over there, and then figuring out a game plan moving forward. So I would just suggest maybe, Madam Vice President, if you can talk to the acting mayor
I will.
during your daily dialogues with him and push him in
I'm
that
sure he's
direction.
watching.
With that, I yield.
It's
Thank
like
you.
Santa. Thank you.
Also, I'd just like to say that I think that suggestion is a great idea, because these folks are looking for some immediate relief. And by speaking to the vendor, perhaps they would understand and agree to, during the hours of operation, have 2 police officers directing traffic. I think that would help somewhat, especially during this Christmas season with people shopping. That's adding to that stress on traffic in this neighborhood. So perhaps, Madam President, if you could speak to the mayor to reach that facility to give these folks some
Right.
relief, that would be a good idea, I think.
Rep. Sylvia, the acting mayor and I actually have an appointment there this Friday.
Great, thank you.
Anything further?
No, in closing, I'd just like to thank Councilors Kamara, Steve Kamara, Steve Long, and Derek for their service to this community. I know some very long years, and it's appreciated, and thank you all for what you've done. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a quick statement for the residents of Commonwealth Landing. I know you've heard tonight that Councilor Long's been working behind the scenes. I've been working behind the scenes. There is stuff happening. Obviously, if Mr. Hathaway was confused by what was supposed to be checked out, we will address that. And it will still be on our agenda with our new council beginning in January. I've already asked the acting mayor if he remains council president, to have that on immediately, and the councilors-elect are up to speed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 1 is a discussion regarding communication. What?
No, citizen
Apologize.
input.
Before we get to item 1, we have a citation.
Are we still in citizen input?
What's that, Counselor?
Isn't that just citizen input?
Yes, that's it. They're all together.
So now
Okay.
we'll open up finance?
No, citation.
Oh.
Do you have a question, Counselor?
What's that?
If I could have Tess come forward, please. If you wanted to, we have a citation from the Board of Health. You can stand.
Oh, okay.
Or you can sit.
Or either way, but it's just a citation.
So I just, Dr. Souza's here, he's been on the Board of Health, for nearly 10 years. So, he's resigning, the end of this year, or until we have a new, physician member on the board. So I just wanted to recognize him, for his service. Let's see, this is a official citation, from the City of Fall River for Dr. Daniel Souza in recognition of your dedicated service as a physician member from April 20th, 2010 to December 31st, 2019. So I just would like to present this to you.
I want to thank everyone, and I do want to thank the City of Fall River for the privilege of serving.
Grab the microphone, just talk into one of them, right here to the right. The cord's
Anyone
on.
you want, whatever you want.
I just want to thank the city. So I'm a pulmonary critical care physician, so I have it's near and dear to my heart, anything that has to do with tobacco products and trying to keep them away from the hands of kids. This all started when Dr. Valancourt showed me a photograph of couldn't have been a 13-year-old girl holding a tobacco product. And he says, "What do you want to do about this?" And that's what got me into the Board of Health. So it's been a learning experience, and I learned on the job, and that was always my mission. And I'm really proud of the work that we did with enforcement. And in the last 10 years, we've really seen a massive curbing of the sale of tobacco products to our youth. And now, as we have seen that go down, and that was through the aid of the city, and then the federal government getting involved as well, we're now going to have a new challenge, as you can now see in the national news, with vaping. And that's going to be a whole other topic that I'm also very passionate about. So I wanted to thank the City of Fall River for the privilege of letting me serve. It's been an honor, and I'm always available to help if you need me. Thank you.
Thank you. For your service.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is a discussion regarding communication from the acting mayor regarding financial highlights of the fiscal 19 free cash certification. We have Mrs. Sahadi.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the council. Acting Mayor Ponte and myself talked about the certification of free cash, and as you know, that certification increases and decreases annually based on the highlights of the prior fiscal year. This particular year in the general fund, we had $3 million worth of free cash certified, $3,016,137 to be exact. And so we thought it would be important to let you know what the components of that free cash in the general fund actually represented. Normally, you would start with revenue, but I think it's important to talk about the appropriations. I think it's really important to give kudos to all of our department heads, because as you can see from the list of departments that have what's referred to as turnbacks, what I will bring to your attention is the majority of the turnbacks in each one of these departments represent salaries as a result of inability or simply not being able to fill a particular position and not necessarily having turnbacks on the expenditure side. So I think the hard work that this administration has done over the last number of years with zero-based budgeting has really paid off. Departments really are looking at what their actual needs are on an annual basis and presenting that when they present their departmental budgets. Just briefly to go through some of the appropriation turnbacks under the city administrator, $50,000 of that particular turnback as a result of the director of tourism that was not approved by ordinance. The law department unfortunately had a member of their staff leave us to serve our country, and so she was not replaced. With information systems, MIS, there was a position that was unable to be filled. We're actually interviewing for that position right now, looking at potentially increasing that salary so that we can bring into the city someone with some great networking and potential munis experience. The retirement contribution is not salaries, however, that is timing. Those are the cash receipts theoretically that come from BCTC, CDA, and the school department that are timing issues between one fiscal year and another. As you know, we are mandated by a amortization schedule to pay our retirement benefits annually through the year 2035, and we make that payment each year. Streets and highways, again, were salaries. The administration at the time, as you know, had a number of turnovers in that particular department. In addition, there were certain positions that were unfilled. As of today, I spoke with actually John Perry, and for the most part, with the exception of 2 positions, they have all been filled in streets and highways. Solid waste is also salaries. There's about $27,000 worth of expenses that were left in solid waste as a turnback. Facilities was 100% salaries, again, a little bit slow on filling positions. Fire, same thing. Retirements, inability to get the firefighters into the academies timely enough to be able to fill those positions. I believe right now the chief actually has 2 academies going, if not 2, at least 1 academy going, and a number of potential new firefighters. The regional school systems, we don't know what their enrollment is going to be, so we estimate the best we can at the beginning of every fiscal year with regard to what that appropriation is going to be for both the Diamond and for Bristol Aggie. So that turnback of $68,000 was primarily Diamond's appropriation that was overestimated. Code enforcement, of the $100,000, $83,000 was salaries for the same reason, unable to fill some of those positions that were included in the fiscal 2019 budget. And last but certainly not least is Veterans Services. That is the largest of our turnbacks, and that is really, after speaking with Mr. Haig, primarily as a result of lower numbers of veterans that we are now servicing here within the community. On the revenue highlights, you can see the listing. I actually listed within this summary some of the positive and some of the negatives. I guess one of the largest positive estimates in terms of us being extremely conservative when we prepared the fiscal 19 budget was the bank interest, and that's really a kudos to the city treasurer who was able to really track the cash receipts, track the cash disbursements, and be very proactive with the investments. And so with the Durfee investment and the Durfee monies, we were able to earn close to $800,000 or $801,000 more than we actually had estimated within the fiscal 19 budget for interest income. The marijuana or cannabis money, both the excise and the annual fees, are not allowed to be estimated by the communities within the Commonwealth in the first year. And so what you're seeing here are revenue surpluses, because in your prior year recap, those amounts were not actually included. The garage revenues are new, as you know. The city took back the garages from the redevelopment authority, and Mrs. Ferreira in the traffic department is doing a great job at renting those spaces and keeping those garages as full as possible. Tax title exceeded the property tax actuals again by about $500,000. In addition to that, a couple of things that have changed. The police detail admin fee, so that's for the police detail. That was never budgeted in the past. We have now gone to utilizing Munis for police detail, and so those monies are now included in the general fund and will be budgeted in the FY20 budget. And then certainly last but not least, you have the shortfall in the pay-as-you-throw because the program was canceled prior to the end of the fiscal year. And does anyone have any questions with regard to the general fund?
Councilor Seawood?
Just in terms of the free cash for the schools, have we made a determination on the shortfall, if there is any?
You mean at school spending?
Yeah.
Yes, Counselor, and I'm sorry, I didn't bring that with me this evening, but, yes, there's probably about $800,000 worth of a shortfall in the net school spending. I've had some conversations, or preliminary conversations with Mr. Almeida. 230 or 220,000, if my memory serves me correctly, is additional health care, or health insurance, when we finally reconciled that at the end of the year. The remaining $600,000 is a split between transportation that they transferred into their transportation line, as well as a drop in enrollment for the charter schools.
Okay. So do we plan on using the $800,000 from this free cash? I know we're gonna appropriate some of it,
Yes, so it would be my recommendation to the mayor-elect that we would shore up the net school spending with stabilization, because basically that's where your free cash is going, with the exception of the $200,000, and that would come from the healthcare appropriation line.
Okay. And then I applaud the department heads for working diligently on this, and I think you and I have had this conversation. My only concern is going forward, when we start looking at these givebacks and all these turnbacks and some of the revenues, a lot of the turnbacks, as you mentioned, are, one time not filling these positions. Had these positions been filled, we wouldn't have necessarily seen some of these additional turnbacks. Veteran services at almost, $400,000, I know a lot of that has to do with the different benchmarks that they can meet in terms of the state, but you never know, what type of needs we're going to see on any given year in terms of veterans coming in. But I know a lot of them are just not meeting the criteria for their financials that are associated with it. But and then we start looking at $500,000 in the tax title, the additional interest and excess budget due to the Durfee bans of $800,000. So those are things that obviously are not going to be reoccurring next year, outside maybe of veterans services. So just moving forward, I just caution the new administration walking in this council to make sure that we do our due diligence when the budget comes on, so that we have some surplus to continue to fill our unfunded liability needs, which we'll be discussing shortly on this OPEB, which I think is a step in the right direction, but clearly, I think we're just under $1 million for almost $500 million in unfunded liability, and so these are the types of things that I think we need to start talking about as an administration and as a city council moving forward, on how we're going to just start handling a lot of our stabilization accounts and other needs, so I just wanted to get that out there. I yield.
Anything further? Counselor in seat 6?
Just a couple of pieces that I was looking at. If I'm looking at the tax rate recap report, page 4 or 6. Just looking down here, it says, this is on the revenue side, fines and forfeitures of $1,463,000. What's the majority of that, fines and forfeits?
Traffic,
That's
traffic,
parking
parking,
fines?
parking tickets, yes.
So that's, how much of that's coming out of ordinance enforcement?
I would have to get that detail. I don't have the recap in front of me.
How much? I know it's not much. Because if you look at that, it's like, this is what kills me, is we go through all of this, everybody wants to look at ordinances and being the chair of ordinance, we go through way more ordinances, and we just had people here and say, how's this happen, and yada, yada, all this stuff, right? But if you look at that, you're gonna find that the enforcement of our ordinances just doesn't happen. So it's just a parting observation for our new councilors to take a look at. Because if you look at that, that's at 1.4 million. And it sounds like a lot of money, but when you go up to licenses and permits, it's 2.4 million. And I would think that the enforcement of our ordinances should be probably a little more of a priority for what's going on. Then we can go from there. I just want to make another parting observation when we go to the classification, tax allocation. We just set the tax factor. And if you look on page 1 of 2, you'll see that the total property value in the city of Fall River at the present time approaches about $6 billion. So when we talk about shifting that tax factor, you're looking at the residential side being just under $5 billion. Billion. All right? And when we go to the commercial and industrial, you're looking at that being about $1 billion. So it's somewhere between 20 and 25% of the total valuation of our properties in the city of Fall River are commercial and industrial. So then when we shift that tax factor, that's why the rate on the commercial side goes, because it's divided over a smaller portion. So just so you know that going forward. But the majority of the property in the city of Fall River, assessments, is residential property. They are the ones who pay the lion's share of the taxes in the city of Fall River. When we make that shift, then the burden goes to the commercial side, but we don't have a whole lot of commercial property. It'd be nice if we were on a 50-50 split type of thing, where half of our property was commercial. If you go to some communities where they have a lot of commercial malls and stuff like that, you'll see that the tax factors don't shift that much, because when you move it, it doesn't really do anything. So that's my 2 observations, but it's a nice report. I think we're doing well. Got to be a little careful going forward on the, when you talk about the turnbacks from Bristol Aggie. Bristol Aggie has been approved to build some new facilities up there, and we carry the lion's share of their budget with the city of Fall River, so we need to be very careful looking forward when we start talking about Bristol Aggie. I know Diamond, you can have a conversation about putting up a new facility there, so it's something to be considered. That's my observations. I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further from the council or the administration?
Yes, certainly, Madam President. So the sewer department had certified free cash of $2,050,000. Of that amount, $1,225,000 is being used to supplement the 2020 budget. I believe you approved that in the last meeting, leaving a balance of the $825,000. The water department had free cash certified at $501,000. Of that amount, $440,000 is being used to supplement the 2020 budget. And last, but certainly not least, the EMS department certified their free cash at $418,000. The majority of that was $200,000 of unappropriated prior year fund balance that was not transferred into the stabilization fund, and a surplus in revenue of about $169,000. So that's all I have with regard to the financial highlights.
Anything further from the council on the financial highlights, item 1? I'm sorry, item 2. So item 3 is transfers and appropriations.
Yes, certainly. So in front of you are transfers and appropriations. Item 2 is to transfer $432,165,000 into the other post-employment trust, broken down between the general fund, water, sewer, and EMS. Back a year ago, and I apologize because I don't know if this council actually has copies of the policy, and I should have probably put it in the package. But about a year ago, we developed a policy to include within the transfers 10% of the free cash into the OPEB trust fund on an annual basis. So Councilor in seat 1 is correct. It's only a drop in the bucket for a $500 million worth of liability that's out there, but we need to start somewhere. It's my true opinion that the Commonwealth will probably make this a mandate when the pension is beyond its appropriation in terms of the funding of that particular liability. This particular liability will probably become a mandate at some point. We, among a lot of communities, truly try to include in the OPEB trust whatever dollars we can on an annual basis, but it is not and has not been in our instance part of the operating budget. There are certainly some cities and towns within the Commonwealth that have more ability to do that within their appropriations. We, as part of the city, have not been able to do that going forward. At this point, at least we're putting in 10%. So we're looking at 10%. The way that the policy was put together included 10% of the general fund and the other enterprise funds as needed. What we're going to do going forward, because I had this conversation with Mr. Furlan earlier today, was really track what the liability is, because we receive the liability as a city, but track what the liability is by fund type and adjust it on an annual basis based on the contributions that are being made, because although the sewer department initially had a number of employees, it no longer has a full force of employees. So realistically, if their free cash is certified at a higher amount, they may be overfunding in terms of a percentage of the total, and the general fund is funding based on the number of employees. So the policy itself needs to be continued to look at on an annual basis, and we need to track what we're putting into the fund so we know where the source of funding originated.
Anything from the council? Any questions? Thank you.
The other transfer that you have in front of you is the remaining fund balance in the general fund, so that would be the $2,714,523, moving it from the free cash certification, or what's referred to as the FY19 surplus revenue, to the general fund stabilization. The $100,000 that you have heard Mr. Sullivan speak about with regard to annually putting $100,000 into the stabilization fund for sewer is what you see there. It's $100,000 from the sewer enterprise FY19 surplus revenue to the sewer stabilization fund. And then lastly, the $376,791 is the net free cash minus the amount going into the OPEB trust from the EMS FY19 surplus revenue to the EMS stabilization fund. Any questions?
Anything from the council? Thank you, Mrs. Sahadi. Item 4, so all of these items are already on the agenda, so it's only for discussion. Item 4 is discussion for a proposed amendment to the expense and travel policy.
Yeah, so just briefly, Madam President, Acting Mayor Ponte and myself discussed what was in ordinance right now as it related to out-of-state travel. And we have noted that the ordinance was quite old and needed to be amended and brought up to speed, if you will, with modernization of current reimbursement provisions and other travel expenses. In addition, the ordinance 2384 did not reference the mayor. It referenced department heads and the city council, but the mayor was not referenced in that particular ordinance. So it is important, or we believe that it's important, that the mayor is included within the ordinances of the city for travel reimbursement as well as expense reimbursements. So Mayor Ponte discussed with myself with regard to some proposals. So what you have in front of you is, I'm gonna guess you're gonna send it to ordinance, is a revised form, reimbursement form. So it remains pretty much the same if it's a department head. If it's the mayor, it is now going to need 2 signatures prior to travel and/or reimbursement, and for approval purposes, of course. And it also, what we've also included in your packet is a draft travel and expense reimbursement policy that I'm assuming will go to ordinance as well, and we will talk about in the new year.
Thank you. Anything from the council? Seeing nothing, thank you, Mrs. Hadi. Do you have a motion to adjourn finance?
Move to adjourn finance.
Motion made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. All in favor?
Aye.
So voted. Have a 5-minute recess. Council will now please come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Joseph Kamara?
Here.
Stephen Kamara?
Here.
Kilby? Long?
Yep.
Pelletier?
Here.
Viveras?
Here.
Vice President Lullaby LeBeau?
Here. Will everyone in the council please rise for a moment of silent prayer? Please remain standing for a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Madam Clerk?
The first item before you is a communication from the acting mayor regarding financial highlights for fiscal year FY19 free cash certification.
Motion to accept and place on file?
Second.
Motion to accept and place on file made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Joseph Kamara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 2 is the mayor's communication and a financial order that the sum of $432,165 be and the same is hereby appropriated for the OPEB trust fund from general fund free cash in the amount of $301,614, water fund free cash in the amount of $6,105, sewer fund free cash in the amount of $82,580, and EMS fund free cash $41,866.
Move to accept the communication and adopt the order.
Second.
Move to accept the communication and adopt the order made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item 3 is a communication from the mayor and a financial order that the sum of $2,714,523 be, and the same is hereby appropriated from the general fund FY19 surplus revenue to the general fund stabilization fund.
Motion to accept communications and adopt the order?
Second.
Motion to accept the communication and adopt the order made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 4 is the mayor's communication and proposed amendment to the expense and travel policy.
Just one question. On item 3, did that include items B and C, the 100,000, as well as the 376,000?
Should have been plural with the mass orders.
Are they separate orders?
I'm
Madam
sorry,
Clerk?
yes. So, excuse me, can we just back up for a moment?
Yep.
Okay, so financial order number 2 is the sum of 100,000, be and the same is hereby appropriated for the sewer enterprise fund FY19 surplus revenue to the sewer stabilization fund.
Move to adopt that order.
Second.
Move to adopt made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
And the third order is that the sum of $376,791 be and the same is hereby appropriated from the EMS Enterprise Fund FY19 surplus revenue to EMS Stabilization Fund.
Move to adopt that order.
Second.
Move to adopt that order by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 4 is the mayor's communication and proposed amendment to the expense and travel policy.
Move to refer to ordinance committee.
Second.
Move to refer to ordinance committee, made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 5 is a communication from the Fall River Task Force Chair requesting consideration of previously submitted ballot question summary and home rule amended charter.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the communication, approve the ballot question and summary, and forward to the acting mayor for his consideration and action.
Can you repeat that one more time, Counselor? Accept the communication?
Yep, move to accept the communication, approve the ballot question and summary, and forward to the acting mayor for his consideration and action.
A motion to accept the communication, approve the ballot question and summary, and forward to the acting mayor for his approval. Do I have a second? Seeing none? Different motion, Counselor?
If there's no second, there's no discussion. Can't present the case if no, there's not a second.
This is already in the ordinance committee as
No,
well.
This is a question. This is separate from what's in the ordinance committee.
Thank you, Counselor. Item 6.
Item 6 is a communication from the Assistant Purchasing Agent regarding surplus property.
Motion to accept, place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Have the Traffic Commission making recommendations to amend ordinances.
Move to ordinance committee.
Second.
Motion moved to the ordinance committee, made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Kadeem. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 8 is the proposed ordinance relating to the Water Department positions for second reading and
Motion
enrollment.
passed for second reading and enrollment.
Second.
Motion passed through second reading and enrollment, made by Counselor Joseph Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So voted.
Have the citation.
Motion to adopt the citation.
Second.
Motion to adopt, made by Counselor Joseph Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item number 10 is the order granting permission to Carver Street LLC for the removal of curbing at 6 Carver Street.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt, made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Which one do you want to second?
Item 11 is the order granting permission to Jose Barboza at 119 Slade Street for the removal of an additional 12 feet of curbing.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt, made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item 12 is the order granting permission to Philomen Souza at 1068 Slade Street for the removal of an additional 16 feet of curbing on Montauk Street.
Motion to send it to Public Works Transportation.
Motion to send it to the Committee on Public Works and Transportation, made by Counselor Pelletier,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Item 13 is for permission to be granted to Kevin Marks at 2174 South Main Street for removal of curbing on Otis Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
And item 14 grants permission to Echo ATM LLC to operate a secondhand article store at 4171 North Main Street inside Shaw's.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Long,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
The police chief's report.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kadim,
These are text gifts. Second.
seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
We have the renewal of auto repair shop licenses.
Motion to adopt the renewals.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Joseph Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
We have applications for the renewal of auto body shop licenses.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Long,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
We have a number of claims.
Motion for Corporation Council.
Second.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council made by Counselor Joseph Kamara, seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
The minutes of the planning board meeting.
Move to take items 19 through 24 together.
Second.
Madam Clerk, the planning board minutes are under communications.
For, to accept and place on file.
And the others are to be approved.
Yep, yes.
So item 19 should go as is.
Move to accept, place on file, planning board minutes.
Motion to accept and placed on file made by Counselor Stephen Kamara,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kadim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Move to take items 20 through 24 together.
Motion to
Second.
take items 20 through 24 together made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Kadim. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve?
Motion approved made by Counselor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Whereas the city of Fall River owns the building at 755 Pine Street, and whereas both the Veterans Association of Bristol County and the Veterans War Council both operate out of this facility, and whereas there is no current memorandum of understanding, nor has there ever been one on the use of this property, now therefore be it resolved that the administration, corporation council, veterans agent, boards from both association, and the city council veterans liaisons work to facilitate an appropriate agreement as soon as possible.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Joseph Kamara. Any discussion? I put in this resolution and I got several calls on it. I just wanted to state, the reason that this was after the agenda was filed, because there was some concern on that, was because our meeting was on Monday, so our agenda was filed a day earlier. That is the only reason for that. I wanted this as soon as possible because our next meeting after inauguration is sometime in January, and there seems to be a bit of concern going on at the Veterans Center right now as to which groups have ownership of which areas of the center. And in working with the acting mayor and the veterans agent on this, we've learned that there is no agreement between the city who owns this property and any of the entities there in writing. All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Madam President, can we have a 2-minute recess to sign the ordinance?
Yes. Council is back in session.
So the last item before you is for passage through final ordination. It's the ordinance relating to the salaries and personnel in the water department.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Council Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Council Long. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
That's all we have.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the current council for their hard work this term, especially our outgoing councilors. We're losing 4 of you. I've been very happy to serve with all of you. This has not been an easy term. It hasn't been an easy 2 terms. And it has been a pleasure going through all of this with you by my side. If any of the outgoing councilors would like to speak. Councilman Long?
I'd just like to say it was an honor and a privilege to be, to serve the city as a councilor. Looking forward to my retirement. At this point, my wife's retiring. We're gonna do some travel and have some well-deserved time off, but I really enjoyed it. It was tumultuous at times, and frustrating and all those other things, but it's an experience I'll never forget, and thank you to the citizens, and thank you to my colleagues for putting up with some of my baloney every now and then, but it was a pleasure. I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything from Counselor Stephen Kamara?
Sure, I'd like to extend my appreciation and thanks to the voters of Fall River that over the last, it's hard to believe, 42 years, I've served 24 years in public service. And I'd like to particularly commend the staff that makes it a joy to work for the people of Fall River, particularly Colleen Taylor, who serves as our secretary, more recently Kat, who affectionately known as Kat, Kathy Howard, who serves also as our secretary, and certainly Allison Bouchard and Nejlit, who capably serve as our clerk and assistant clerk and are very helpful to us who are members of the council. It's been an honor for me to serve, and I appreciate this opportunity to be a public servant for as long as more than 2 decades, and greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kamara?
Thank you. I also, before I begin, I just want to say congratulations to all the people who were elected in November. I wish them good luck. Anything I can do to help, just call me. Their success is the city's success, so I wish them all the best. I also want to thank the citizens of Fall River. I've been blessed and I'm humbled to have served and been given the opportunity to serve for as long as I have. I've served for 24 consecutive years, and that's something that very few people have had the opportunity to do. So I'm really fortunate and blessed that they've gave me that opportunity. I want to thank the citizens for that. Also, I want to thank the people who work every single day on behalf of the city, people in this building, the department heads, the workers themselves, all of the public safety officials that work day in and day out to protect the residents of this community, all the people who provide services to the residents of this community, all the school teachers and everyone involved to make this city a great place. It's a city that, deserves more than what we get on many occasions. And I want to thank them for all the hard work that they do. People don't realize how hard they really do work. So I want to thank all of those people as well. And I especially want to thank the 3 women who are sitting in front there, Allison, Colleen, and Inez. I know Allison and Colleen have been here for the last 24 years along with me. Inez, not that long, but equally in the same category as them. I've talked to these 3 women practically daily, if not daily, every other day, on a lot of things that are going on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of what we're doing. So I want to thank them for all the help they've given me throughout my tenure. And last but not least, I want to thank my family. I want to thank my wife and my children who are here. One of my son's here. My other 2 daughters are not here. But I spoke to them earlier today and told them it's not going to be an easy meeting, but it is going to be easy because I've put in an awful lot, and I think they all appreciate what I've done. But I've appreciated what they've done. They've given me the opportunity. They've made sacrifices on my behalf, given me the opportunity to do something for the city I care about and I love, and I want to thank them for that. And I just want to say again, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everyone that had anything to do with helping me to be in this position for so long. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Viveras?
Thank you. I just want to say It's been an honor to serve the city of Fall River the last 2 years, and it's certainly been a challenging 2 years, and I believe that this council navigated those challenges with professionalism and care, and hopefully we can put a lot of this behind us and start moving forward. And so I want to thank my colleagues for that, and just want to thank the residents for the opportunity to be able to serve the city of Fall River. So,
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Anything further? Counselor in seat one?
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to take the opportunity to thank the outgoing councilors. As many of you know, we just heard all the historical knowledge that this council will lose while in chamber. I know they're a phone call away, but Joseph Camara has served 24+ years. He's seen a lot in terms of, 9C cuts, the good and the bad times of Fall River, has had some significant experience in that. Steve Camara, who has served both on the school committee and the city council over the last 24 years as well. And then Steve Long, who has, in his capacity, has served in a number of capacities as a CDA, Community Development Agency, then also as a member of the Board of Assessors, and then again on the city council. So, that's some experience that you can't necessarily gain with new officials coming on. And then Mr. Viveris, who has a unique experience with BCC and brought that educational aspect to the city council. So I want to thank them for their service. I know it's difficult, especially the last 2 years have been very, very trying, and the last 4 years have been trying. And I know anybody that has a family, how much time and dedication is necessary for this job. It takes away from the family time that you have. So I appreciate that. I thank you, and I know you folks will be around if I want to call you, or if Madam Vice President wants to call you, because I'll let her give you the calls. So with that, thank you again. And I look forward to I know there's some new members here. I look forward to working with the newly elected council. I'm sure we'll be working extremely hard over the next couple of years to continue to move the city forward. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Pelletier?
Thank you. Go back a long way, 1981, when I got elected with Mr. Camara and Bill Whitty, and we come on board and...
Which Camaro?
Oh, yes.
I
Is
wasn't
that...
in '81.
I get mixed. I don't know if you guys are brothers or not, but Steve Camara, 1981, me, Bill Whitty, and you, we come on, and it's been a long journey. I've been up and down, in and out like a yo-yo. So I'm telling you guys, maybe you can come back. Who knows? But Joe, I mean, you've been good 24 years, and that idea you had about the water lines and everything that you brought up. It was a good thing for the city of Fall River, and both of you are both aggressive, and I especially admire Steve Camara, because we got history lessons all the time from you. And my colleague here, when he given the history, he would go off and, hey, geez, why are you gonna shut up? Point of order, get off the subject. But he made it. I thought he was gonna have a heart attack with you, you know what I mean? But there he goes. And my buddy here, we go home early. I don't know what's gonna happen after you leave. I don't know who's gonna be sitting there, but we'll be going home early, that's for sure. But I gotta thank you all for, it's good. I won, you guys, I told your wife she can go fishing now and whatever you guys wanna do. And that's it, I've been there, like I said, and good luck to all of you. Gonna miss you guys.
Can you ever get in the marijuana business?
No. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I don't think that we've seen the last of either of the Camaras. I hope we haven't seen the last of either of the Camaras. I don't know anyone, I haven't met anyone that remembers things as much as Counselor Joseph Camara can go back in his memory and remember what the vote was and who voted on it. I've never seen anything quite like that. And I know that Counselor Stephen Camara has given us a lot of history lessons, sometimes much to the dismay of the counselor that was on the other side of me. But you have never been afraid to be the one lone vote, and that I have admired about you, that you haven't been afraid to do that and to stand your ground. When it's 8-1, it's 8-1, and you're quite fine by that. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I also just want to take 1 minute to say thank you to all of you for your patience as I've stood up here at the podium as the actual president. It turned into the acting mayor, and the vice president had to stand up here. I appreciate your patience and helping me with your knowledge, and especially to Madam Clerk, who has written me all of these nice notes on all of the agendas and helped me as well. I really appreciate that.
Just a
Thank
point
you.
of order, so when the acting mayor is away, the end of the December, are
The
you
acting mayor is
acting
away
mayor?
next week, yes.
Are you the acting
I will
mayor?
then be the acting mayor, the acting president, and the vice president, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna put that on my cards.
Appreciate that.
Mhm.
I yield.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Council Stephen Kamara, seconded by Council Long. All in favor?